So this is the part where I say something witty to hook you in, but let's be real, you're already here, so I've won. Gabe, welcome back to the Dom and Gabe Show. Welcome, friends. Good to see you with us. Another week, another round of coffee, caffeine, and a little bit of chaos.
Ooh, I
I don't
like
know, with some
that.
hot sauce.
Like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I'm good at this stuff. So yeah, let's get into the show. So let's recap the weekend, but books we read, movies we watched,
Yeah.
worlds we saved, stuff like that. But you were late to getting on the
Yeah.
show today, and you said, it's pretty cool. We should talk about it. So what's going
Well,
on?
yeah, cool. Or just, it's slightly eventful. It's just a kid thing. So we have 5 kids, and there's always something going on with kid doing something, getting caught, getting whatever. So we hear, utter panic from upstairs of like, how, like, Lucy, what's going on? We're telling our daughter what's going on. Like, and then she's like, our youngest son, James is locked in the bedroom. Like, why? She's like, the doorknob's popped off and he can't get out. So it's just one, so I go upstairs and like the door, door's shut. It's an older house. So I feel like, like those like crystal knobs and it's just like one threaded line and then the crystal knob. So he has the long threaded side on his side of the door and I have just the, the knob.
Okay.
And so I go, James, okay, what I want you to do is get the knob, as he's 2, get the knob with the long metal thing in it. He's like, okay. And I was like, you have it? And he's like, yep. I go, okay, put that through the door. So I'm looking through like the door hole so I can see, and it's just a quarter pops up. I go, James, that's a quarter. And he goes, yep. And I go, take that out. I can't. So I ended up having to run downstairs, get a long Allen wrench that poked through, and I could twist it open.
Oh, okay.
And I see him. He's in there with a stuffed animal in one hand and a little like a T-shirt in the other. I'm like, what were you gonna do with that? I don't know.
It hadn't gotten that bad yet.
I know. It was like my daughter was like panicking. I go, it's okay. He'll live. I'm coming up. Hold on. So that was why I was late. It was just a whole like. It was literally right at like 9 o'clock, right when we were about to get on. So.
Oh, that's funny.
Everything's okay though. The world is safe. And
yeah, well, there you go. You saved somebody's world. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He was not panicking at all. He was in there. Hi.
Oh gosh.
So that's how I started.
Well, I didn't have anything half as fun. So sorry. Go ahead.
No, say before that it was nice. I went out for coffee. Had a good. My brother's going back down to Florida, so had a cup of coffee with him. He drove around for a bit, just chatting. So it was nice. Then I came home, and then he was stuck in a room.
And your wife is just like, you handle this.
She literally said, she goes, go upstairs and handle him. I'm like, all right. It was already like a thing. Okay. I came into the scene and they're trying to make a movie. We have a little like a play camera. So they're trying to film a movie. And so there's all like set signs as quiet on set, movie up this way. And so the little siblings are messing up the movie. And so I think this is my thought. This is the theology of the scene. They ushered him into the room and said, why don't you go into your room? Pulled the doorknob off and he was stuck in there. Oh no.
Oh no! Now we're done. We got to get him out.
Yeah.
So did you, as a kid, with your brothers and friends, did you make movies?
We only with my cousins. So it's funny. We were just talking about that. I said to Kai, my wife said, we used to make movies and we would do recreations of movies that just came out. So we did my wife did Shrek when she was younger, like when it first came out. We did a ninja movie. I forget what movie we were basing it off of. We did like a Zorro remake.
Called? Zorro? Oh wow.
We did a Zorro remake. Was not good. We remember we did one that was like we were all ninjas and my younger brother, who was the little kid at the time, he needed to have a part. So we made him the Dalai Lama and had him just sit on a pile of, we had no idea what a Dalai Lama was. We just heard it. So we made him sit on a bunch of pillows and we had to like steal a prize from him. But yeah, so we did like make little movies.
Did you ever watch 7 Years in Tibet with Brad Pitt?
No, I haven't.
No?
But
okay.
I
grew up watching that. I haven't in a decade. Anyhow, they've got a very young child Dalai Lama in there.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
I have the movie. I've never seen it.
Oh really?
I have the DVD of it, and I've never seen it though.
It's a it's a beautiful gosh, it's been such a long time since I've seen it, and things are different as a kid versus as an adult. I
Sure.
remember it just being a beautiful slow burn.
Mm.
Um,
I'm up for a good,
yeah,
nice movie. I haven't seen like,
yeah.
we've watched a couple like nothing wrong with them, like Netflix flicks, like, they're just
Mhm.
good, they're fun, they're fast, but not like a good meaty movie. I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
seen one in
yeah,
a while.
yeah. It's interesting. Speaking of beautiful slow burns, I tried watching no, what was it called? Hostels or Hostiles over the weekend. It was an older movie, maybe 2017, with Christian Bale, I think.
Hmm.
And I got about halfway through, and I think I was just tired at the end of a long day or something. And I couldn't stay with it. The acting was great, but I just
Yeah,
couldn't stay with it.
didn't
So
hold you.
yeah, jumped over and watched Baby Driver instead, which was awesome.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Just, I like got to the end and I'm like, is this a movie or a musical? What did I just
Yeah.
watch here? This is great. It was
So,
fun.
that's a fun one. I forgot about that one. That was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got such like he's such duck lips and he's such a funny it's a cool looking guy
Yeah.
to watch. Um he's been in a couple of other
What
movies.
was
Like
what
usually
was
if
he
he's
in
in a movie, I
first?
like watching him.
What was he in first that kind of got it? Was he in Fault in Our Stars? Was that his first? Was it Fault in Our
Oh, I
Stars?
don't know. I don't
And
that
what's
doesn't
his
ring a
name?
bell.
Ansel Elgort? Am I just saying random words? Um,
Don't know.
I think he was in that movie. That's where I first saw him.
Mhm.
The John Green book made movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but we were talking about movies recently. I was talking about, well, you know what spurred on? We were talking about, or I made a reference to 12 Angry Men on
Okay.
the meeting we were in at work. Or I
Mhm.
said juror number 8. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. But I
Mhm.
was trying to think of like why like I like one setting movies. I don't know what they have a name for it, but
Yeah.
like 12 Angry Men, The Breakfast Club. I like that movie Buried with Ryan Reynolds. I do like it when the dialogue becomes the whole like meat of it and the
Mhm.
characters have to really shine through. I like The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
That's just a fun classic, but
Okay. I've not seen that.
oh, that's like that's an 80s fun classic. But I don't know, I do like that. I don't know why. Oh, I like the Big Chill. There's something nostalgic about these movies. I've
Yeah.
never it's not nostalgic for my era cuz it's right before my childhood, but there's something cozy about these 80s movies. I don't know
Mhm.
why, but they hit it.
Well, I think if it's part of your childhood. Although I said that, I used to love the Phantom Menace till I rewatched it, and I'm like, okay, now I understand why everybody's mad. I wish I hadn't rewatched it because it was beautiful in my
Just
memory.
left it pristine in your mind. Left it.
Yeah. Um.
I think
Yeah.
it's just
So that's
the
funny.
cusp of technology. Like 80s was such like a homey. This is my hot take. 80s movies, they're on the cusp of technology. So they have phones, there's TVs, but like they could still make a whole movie of a flight being delayed and traveling across the country, like which is not
Hmm.
reasonable nowadays,
Hmm.
really. And it's just for no one has a cell phone, no, like so that's not built in. It's still built on like these old timey
Yeah.
premises. Like
It's a bit of a different. It's a bit
it's
of that different culture
yeah,
that
it's
we
like
don't
hanging
really
right in the
have.
middle.
Yeah, as young people.
But
But also, I do think there's there's a throwback to I don't know about you, maybe from my childhood. But I just, gosh, what was I watching recently? I saw something. I can't remember what it was anymore. Oh, my little girl and I, we've started watching The Famous Five. So it
okay.
was rebooted. It's a children's series written by Enid Blyton, who lived in Britain. And these are, between the wars, five children who are on holidays routinely. I don't know when they actually ever do any schoolwork. And they're always going on adventures. And they have multiple series where these five kids, well, four kids and a dog go on adventures all the time. And so we were rewatching it. It was rebooted by, I think, Hulu or something. And it was really beautifully done, little, mostly staying true to the source material. And then after that season was over, we went back, well, let's go watch the old 80s versions of Famous
Yeah.
Five. And they're good. They're a bit painfully 80s compared to the fact that it's supposed to be set in the 30s.
Oh, okay.
Um, but it's funny watching it because at the same time, there is a weird sense of home in seeing those big aviator glasses, the
Mm,
stupid hairdos,
yeah.
the the poor fitting suits, the oversized technology.
Yeah.
it's just weird watching that and realizing that's what my dad used to look like. That was the normal
Maybe
world. And I
that's it.
grew up in New
Yeah.
Zealand, which is the
Oh,
end of the world until I was 9 years old, right? I don't know how long it took for stuff to sort of filter down to New Zealand
it
once
does.
America had the idea
Yeah.
for whatever it was. So maybe they're on like a 5 year delay compared to everything else. I don't know. Wouldn't surprise me. Oh, they'd probably get mad at
Yeah.
me for saying that.
That's your
Probably
hot
not
take.
anymore, not with the
Yeah, yeah.
internet now.
No.
But it's just funny how that's just a lot of my childhood. 'Cause I was born in '88, so the '90s are very much living
Mhm.
out '80s culture while
Yeah.
you're trying to figure out how to be '90s, and
True.
then you really get '90s by the mid 2000s
Yep.
or 200s or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, but don't quote me for being a cultural
No, these are hot
psychologist or
takes. Yeah.
something. But yeah,
I was
hot
just
takes
thinking
on a cold
about
morning.
I was thinking about movies, and I don't know, what's your thought on, like, you know what? Do you ever watch like a movie or read a book that's supposed to be this cultural, like, defining piece of art and you just don't jive with it? My hot take is
Okay,
Citizen Kane, ranked as like the number one movie of all time.
got like
Does
10
not do it
minutes
for me.
in, and maybe I was having a bad day, but I didn't get into it.
That's what I mean. I watched the whole thing and it's like, okay, cool. Like I could see, like, you could see what people talk about, but then you take a movie as its whole value. Like, what I get into is this, like, movies and books, you could always recognize bits of genius,
Mhm.
but as a whole, like your general entertainment score, I would rank Citizen Kane like at a 20. Appreciation of art, I'd rank it, 70, just because I have
Okay,
to. That's my
okay.
hot take. It's just like these things that, like, and even like I remember reading, here's my real, A Tale of Two Cities.
Mhm.
Appreciation of art is real high. Overall entertainment value, pretty low.
Okay. I don't think I ever read the original thing. We used to have
Well, I read in school,
children's
so I don't
illustrated
know.
classics where
Oh,
like
that'd be nice.
every page was like text and then picture, text and
Yep,
picture, and then it was
that's nice.
illustrated in a comic book style. So
Oh, come on.
it
Where was
was
I?
really cool, and it was
Yeah.
abridged too. So I
Oh,
read a lot of. I don't know where we got these. Well, the
they're
secondhand
probably
store,
much
secondhand
better.
bookstore. So they were fun. So that's my working knowledge of some classics.
Yeah.
I will routinely try to watch movies, and I will probably just like let myself out at the end of this. But
Yeah.
I've tried watching Rush Hour. I tried watching
Oh,
um
now you're hitting a soft spot.
yeah, I know. It's like, sorry, I'll let myself out. I can't even remember some of the names because like the early Ghostbusters, I tried.
Yep.
You know what? I even just started watching the trailer. I'm like, I'm sorry, you just had to be there and I wasn't, and I don't have to. I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah, we don't have to like everything. That's a really good like theme. We don't have to like everything. And I think that's especially when things are like iconically like rated like
Yeah.
must see, everyone loves, and you're like, this isn't
Mhm.
really like fit. I don't really like this.
I'm trying to think of one that like really
It
stood
stands
out where
out.
I really tried because I try to make it a point. I want to understand why people love
Mm.
stuff and why
Yep.
they're cultural things. It's
Yep.
like that book which I didn't grow up with, but I went and read, and I'm glad I did, called oh, what is it called? Lord of the Flies. Like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
everybody knows about this book, so I should probably read it. And I
Uh-huh.
did. And I'm like, okay, there's stuff to chew on here. This is interesting. And so I'll try to do the same with movies. But there was one movie I tried watching recently, or in the last couple of months or something, just to be like, so that I can say I watched it. And I couldn't really finish it.
Yeah.
Just so it happened. People loved it.
That
Um,
happens a
I
lot
don't
with
have to.
no, that happens a lot with me with like Wes Anderson movies.
Yeah.
They're either hit or miss with me. Some of them I love, some of them I just don't actually like at all. I
Mhm.
think like Moonrise Kingdom didn't jive with me. Didn't get it. It was just odd. And but the Grand Budapest Hotel was fun and
Yeah.
quirky and engaging and entertaining. And then even like Asteroid City was pretty fun. I'm trying to remember. I watched that on a plane, so it wasn't like a full experience. I watched it in two bits.
Oh gosh. George of the Jungle was one that my wife
Birds
loved.
of the Jungle. Wow,
I
yeah.
had the hardest time getting through that last year. It just went on and on. I just didn't find it
Which
funny.
which
And
one is that? That's the
first
one.
one with
Yeah,
Frasier.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe when you watch them as a kid, you have some
Hmm.
sort of glaze over that. You kind of just see it all and
Yeah.
all together. Nothing stands out.
What impressed me though, honestly, was actually the original three Star Wars. I
Okay. Yep.
rewatched them after a decade, and I was impressed how they held up. Now I'm curious in 10 years if I'll still think the same, but
That's
I thought
interesting.
they held up excellently well in ways
Yeah.
that the ones following after didn't.
So did you say the
Um,
first ones released or the first episodes?
oh,
Like
I'm
the
sorry.
70s ones?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, okay, that's what
They
I thought.
still landed the plane. They
Yeah.
did it really well. I guess it was the story was there, the tech at where it is, but the story,
Mhm.
I don't know,
Do
the story
you know what I
worked.
think it was? I think they didn't try and overreach their special effects capabilities at the time. They made it look they did what they could to make it last forever. You know, if they went kind of
Mm-hmm.
cruddy and went like cheesy,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't last. But I think they made it so it fit well with what they could do.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of Star Wars, yeah, I played a Star Wars video game this weekend. That's what
Oh,
I
really? Which
yeah.
one?
I was going through my PlayStation games and I was going to play one of my favorite games, Battlefront 2, Star Wars
Mm-hmm.
Battlefront 2 for PlayStation 2.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I got it all set up. It was 3 trips back and forth to the basement to get all this stuff. So by the time I was finally done, I was like, I got the PS3 set up and I'm thinking PS3 pays PlayStation 2 games, so I'll just do that on the PS3. Got all set up and it was not it said it wasn't formatted right, so I couldn't play it. So I was like, I don't want to have to go back down again. So I played Star Wars Unleashed 2 for PS3, which I think
I
was
don't
like
think I know that one.
it because it bombed and I was like, well, let's just play it. Let's just see why. I could see why it bombed. One of the worst games I've ever played. It's just a guy, I don't even know what his name is. He just twiddles his lightsabers the whole way and it's the same thing nonstop. It just makes no sense. So it was an utter disappointment.
Huh.
But then I broke out Black Ops, Call of Duty Black Ops, and played that for a bit, which was nice and nostalgic.
Okay.
Nostalgic. I played that in high school, so
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
close
Well, like
nostalgia.
I tried inviting you over the weekend where I've played Counter-Strike. That was the game that
I'll
I
get
cut
on it.
my
Yeah,
teeth
yeah,
on with some friends. We grew up, gosh, we had a guy who came from Austria. I think he was Brazilian, but he came from Austria to stay with my family and help my parents with a business in Australia. And he loved playing Counter Strike. And this is back in the old days when,
I was gonna say it's like the 90s,
yeah, yeah,
2000s.
yeah. This early 2000s. And he introduced us to a LAN network for the first time, and we got to play
Oh
against each
wow.
other. And we're like, sitting in opposite rooms, facing opposite walls, and we're connected by a yellow Ethernet cable, and we're just going at each other. And
Oh, the
man, that was
best.
the best thing ever. So to then come back to it like 5 years ago and find that all the graphics are now gorgeous and like pristine, and I can
Yeah.
play it on a little, part of a 4K screen because I've got a laptop and it burns out if I do anything too big. Um, but I played that over the weekend and it's been fun. It's been really fun. In fact, it's been so much fun. I just had to uninstall Steam completely this morning because I need to
You need
double
to pause.
down. Well, it's because at the end of the day, like I just feel wiped.
Yeah.
And then the problem is instead of actually doing stuff maybe that's good for me, I will
Mm-hmm.
go to play some games where you
Yep.
get hard. It's the only game I'll play is Deathmatch, which is the most intense, I think. Well, that plus arms race. But in Deathmatch, you shoot everybody,
Everybody, yeah,
and
it's
if
you
it
against the
moves, you
world.
shoot it. So
Yeah.
there's no teams, and it's everybody on everybody. And if you last more
Yeah.
than 10 seconds, you're probably doing something right.
Yep.
So it's the most intense. So I'll get dopamine like really fast.
Yeah.
And I've been watching myself the past month kind of like routinely sort of turn to that. And it's been
Mm-hmm.
an intense first month for us at the
Yeah.
job, getting into the new year. Okay, maybe it's what got me through it. Now I need to do
I
something
need
a
to go.
bit different
Yeah.
this month,
Exactly.
but I can't have Steam installed because I'm just going to want to fire it up.
Yeah.
So I took it off. Now, how long it stays off, I don't know, but maybe if it gives me a week
Yeah.
of not having
Got
it
to
that
prune a
easily
little.
accessible. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
I
But
did the same thing with
it's fun though.
yeah, I had YouTube on my phone. And just it's just such a quick like I like a TikTok, like Instagram, anything. It's just you find yourself YouTube shorts, just any little moment of spirity. I was just on there,
Mhm.
watching shorts and same thing. I was like, I gotta get rid of this because you look at the the totals, it's all short increments, but then you look at the end totals of the day, your screen time, you're like, okay, I just spent I don't even say how much I spent on YouTube shorts and collection, and it's like all that time could be packaged up into a single moment and do something else
No,
or
yeah,
spread across the day. So I'm in the same boat. I had to get rid of that.
yeah.
Um,
I routinely feel better either after actually watching something intentional, like you
yes.
literally feel better.
Yeah.
Could even be a show. So like I watched the first 3 episodes of a series on Hulu called Paradise, which is really quite cool. It's about how the
Mm.
entire world burns for some reason, and then
Oh,
25,000 people go live in it's like a city or a town that's built underground, but it's built a bit like the Truman Show in that it's got
mm.
its own sun and it's got trees and parks and
Oh,
neighborhoods,
wow.
and but
That's
there's
cool.
nobody else really out there anymore. And so now there's dark plots and somebody murders the president, and
Oh, that
it's
seems
just very
interesting.
good and it's fun. It's very fun. And yeah, so I watched that and I finished reading Never Split the Difference, which is
Okay.
a book by a hostage negotiator, Chris Voss. And there's an insane amount of really smart thinking in there. I'm reading it and thinking this applies to just not even dealing with hostage negotiation or even business, which is where he's applying it. But this works in application to your home life, how you deal with other people, to stop trying to brute force what you want out of situations, but to reframe your questions so that you're not
Mm.
coming across as aggressive. You're eliciting sort of a collaborative sense
Oh,
out of
that's
everybody.
interesting. I
I
like that.
liked that. I liked it a
Yeah.
lot. So I'm now routinely, instead of firing off responses to people, I'm actually running aground and catching myself because I've got new programming trying to come in
Mm.
and
That's
start
cool.
with this word, say it in this way, think about some. So it's a really good. I like that book a lot. I probably need to read it 2 more times
So
to
an
actually get it.
application, that could be good for business, that could be good for social interactions, right? So it's
All
it's
of it.
more applicable than
Family,
just yeah,
business,
family. Oh, yeah.
how you deal with um well, like I was thinking like Smart Catholics is one of the programs that I run. So learning how to talk to other people who don't share
Yeah,
the same faith background and they're
true.
arguing with you or, and um yeah, how to sort of walk them off a ledge or find out what they want so that you can help them get it, something like that. Anyhow, so it's a good book. And then I also finished reading through 10x is easier than 2x.
Wow.
And I was getting through the first half of the book and I thought, this guy is repeating himself. Like, how many times can you say 10x is easier than 2x? He's just trying to drum it into you. And I
Yeah,
got 3 chapters in and I thought, this guy's so boring. Mostly because either what he was saying I kind of already knew,
yeah.
or that's actually a gap in my attention span that I probably need to go back and pay attention to more seriously because I learned this
That's
little bit of
interesting.
advice. Maybe you and I talked about this at one point where if somebody's saying something to you and you perceive it as boring and you blank on it, it is that usually happens. There could be a bunch of reasons, but here's one very likely reason. You have not seen the value
Yeah,
of what is being communicated in that segment. It doesn't yet apply to you, and therefore it could be that's the sort of Trojan horse that you miss
that's interesting.
because you bored out of it.
Yeah. So it's almost
And
like
of
when
course,
you
you're
start getting
focusing on the stuff that you think you do know, you
yeah,
think you do want, and the stuff that bores you is the stuff that you don't realize you might actually need that more
that's
than anything
interesting.
else.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
if something starts to bore you, almost like set a trigger in your mind, like, "I'm getting bored. Hey, let's pay attention," because it might be something hidden in there. That's interesting.
Yeah, and maybe to ask, why is this boring me? What is
Yeah.
like I'll be in there's some people I'll be in conversations with clients will come in or somebody who grabs 15 minutes on my calendar and get into it and like my eyes will glaze over in like 5 minutes and stuff or 10 minutes. And then and now there's like 2 conversations going on. I'm half trying to listen to them and my mind's also half looking at me like,
Uh-huh.
what are you missing?
Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
need to start asking? Because every
Yeah.
human, and here's where you sort of go theological a bit, every human is a reflection of, or a refraction or a
Mhm.
aspect of God, has something that God wants to communicate to the world. Maybe they're not all there. Okay, let's be straight.
Yeah.
Maybe
There's
they're not
yeah.
fully an activated, human being, and they still got a long way to go. Doesn't matter. What can I learn? What can they teach me, or something like that? Um,
Yeah.
what questions can I ask to sort of maybe try to unlock them? And sometimes you get that second wind, and then they actually wake up because they suddenly realize or notice somebody's actually paying attention to
Yeah.
them.
I think just in general, like, just cracking the code of life is based upon a lot of curiosity, just, like, living with curiosity, like, of self, of
About
others,
the
and
sixth love language, I think.
yeah. Is that right? It's just
Well, I've seen one blog post
that
riffing
sounds
that it
I mean,
is.
that seems like, that's a nice way to go off it because, like, even with your own self, like, you're kinda going, like, reflecting on, like, how you feel, your emotional state, like, just living in a sense of curiosity changes the game because, like, you're feeling stressed, anxious, depressed, whatever it is. you kind of, instead of just rolling with that, break the wall and say like, huh, like why am I like this? Or just like,
Mhm.
let's see how this plays out. Because that's what happens. Like, in life, you keep going. The new, a new track plays, and the next day comes, and there's a new set of feelings. And then, as far as externally, living with someone's like, I wonder why they're so aggressive in this topic. I wonder like what's behind that engine. Because
Mhm.
whenever you have a conversation with somebody and they're like heated or very adamant about a topic, you're like, what's behind? Like, what are we really talking about? And I think
Mhm.
if you just, and that's funny when you say like when you kind of crack that, then you get to like, oh, this is what we're actually talking about.
Okay, so I'll
It's
be annoying. Why does that land for you? Why is it interesting to you?
it's because it stems from this conversation. It's that age old saying in like a marriage, like it's never about the dishes. And I remember we learned that early on. It
That's
was
a great
like,
thing.
yeah, like when you're arguing with your significant other and you're arguing about the dishes or like, or the bed's not made or the clothes are out, like, yeah, like that's an annoying thing, but it's never that big of an annoyance. There's always
Mhm.
something beneath it, like, there's a lack of respect, there's a lack of, attention, there's a lack of, affection. So if you just put that in, outside of your significant other, a
Mhm.
friend or a coworker or a peer or somebody, a stranger, there's always something deeper
Mhm.
behind what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
But
There's a story from Fort
figuring out.
Machine that I've always loved, and it takes a specific kind of person, I think, to be able to do this. But there's one. He's coming out of mass one day or something, and there's a girl or a woman or a lady standing on the porch or something, and she's railing and she's yelling at the church for this and that, anti-Catholic or something, and he just walks up to her and I think he gets her attention, and he simply asks, "So who hurt you? Why are you hurting?"
Yeah.
Something like that. Just completely ignore all of
Yeah.
the stuff that
Whatever
you're
you're saying.
saying. It's like
Yep.
it's actually motivated because of this other thing.
Mhm.
Now, I don't think I could walk up to somebody who's mad on the street with
Right.
a bullhorn and go, "Bro, who
Yeah.
hurt you,
Who are
bro?"
you? Getting hit with the
You'd
bullhorn.
need to be perceived as somebody
Yeah.
with like the weight that his position or
Sure.
who he was brings to it. But yeah. So, goodness, over the weekend, I sent you a screenshot of a project that I worked on.
Yeah, I
So
just
I
saw it
was
this morning.
playing Counter Strike. I was playing the game, and sometimes what I'll do to how do I say this? When I play the game, I will default into specific patterns of behavior which usually keep getting me killed because I'm not paying attention. I'm just reactive.
Yeah.
So to further mess myself up, I'll play a YouTube video in the background, like motivating, entrepreneurial minded stuff. And so,
Just to get the blood pumping.
yeah, so it's just so that I'm like forced to think of two different things at once. Like that's gonna relax you. Anyhow, one video that then came up afterwards was beautiful music of Hildegard von Bingen, and I don't know if you know her music,
No.
but um, I may be wrong, but I have this sense that she pioneered gosh, she must have been maybe 800s, 900s, or 1200s. I don't know.
Wow.
But she might have pioneered a specific form of Gregorian chant that only featured women vocals.
Mm.
And it is, there's something just utterly enchanting and wild and haunting hearing perfectly trained women singing her take
Mm.
on Gregorian chant.
Oh, that's
Maybe it's
nice.
Hildegardian chant. I don't know. But there's albums out there and there's people, who sing that style. Anyhow, so this was a performance in a cathedral and a group of women were singing and it looked like it was beautifully filmed. And so that just, started playing up. And it was kind of funny. After one more round, I didn't want to play the game anymore because this beautiful music was like, whoa, just
Oh,
calming me
wow. Yeah.
way down. And I didn't need the game anymore.
Hey.
And so I closed that up and then I opened Miro, the task which you'd actually inspired me to keep paying attention to,
Mhm.
and thought, well, what if I just stop holding everything in my head? Because
Mm.
one thing that just frits as an ADHD mind is trying to hold on to everything all at once.
Yeah.
And so I sat down and I started making a board. Here's everything I can think of for this side project that I'm thinking of. Here's the goals, here's the problems,
Yeah.
here's what I think needs to be done, and maybe here's the money I can make off it if it were to work. And then everything that feels obvious and stuff. And just like you showed me, do all the sticky notes and put it in those nice blocks
Map it
and so
out.
on.
Yeah.
Map it all out. Thought, okay, that's one. Okay, let's do the next one. So I did the next one, and then I got 4 in, and then I made a sidebar for other stuff. First of all, it felt relieving. I could feel like the noise in my head just sort of going down as I went to bed
Mm.
the other night.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, I just felt wiped all day. Probably because, I don't know, maybe my body's like, okay, well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got it out, you
You've done it.
jerk. Thank you for
Get it
writing it
out of
down.
here.
And I'm looking at all of that and I'm realizing by not writing it down and by not thinking it through in a way where I could try to share it with somebody else, because it's easy if you try to hold it on for yourself and you write it down in a way that only you can understand, you're still carrying all of that. So
Yeah.
if I try to write that out for somebody else so that, they get a sense of where it's all going, I can then actually relax and let that go and know that in the future, when I sort of choose to come back to it, I can pick it up and see where I
Yeah.
was going.
Yep.
But then also I was able to look at it and go, which are the ones that actually stand the chance of making the biggest return? Okay,
Yeah.
it is these two. And then out
Mhm.
of these two, which is the one where I physically have to do the most work? And
Yeah.
which is the one where my partner friend, who's also working with me on these things, where's the one where she needs to do the most work? Well, this is the one I need to do, and here's the one she needs
Yep.
to do. And her level of involvement in mine is lower. My level of involvement in her is lower.
Yep.
So now I'm whittling it way down. Now I need to do this one, which is my
good.
Saga brand
Yeah.
focus, which is it has the biggest chance of creating the biggest return and
Yeah.
building up a team. And so I then sent you a screenshot very proudly and sent it off to you. And this morning when I woke up, did my sort of morning prayer for about an hour, and then I sat down for an hour and thought, what is the one thing I need to do today? I don't know if I'm going to do this, but I like the idea of recording like a 5-minute kind of developer diary. I don't know how I'm going to post this yet or where, so I need to think about that.
Yeah.
But like I like to tell myself this. I wrote this little book on my process, which is make a difference in 100 days. I thought, okay, what if I put myself through my own challenge? What if I do
Ooh,
100 days to
yeah.
build my own brand? Doesn't totally have to be alone, so I might rope you in on the side. We'll see. But what do I need to do if I only have like 1 hour a day and I can do
Yeah.
one thing and move this thing 1% a day? I'll be 30% better in 100 days as opposed to 0 now.
Yeah. I like
Just
that.
simply by focusing. So today, what I focused on was, okay, restructure the homepage
Mm.
of the website to be more accurate to what it is I want to
Yeah.
do. Tomorrow, step number 2, probably double check the other pages, make sure they're okay, and then work on like a PDF download, which Chat has helped me to generate based on my own book. So I can
It's
say that I own it.
so monumental how much progress you make by just doing that first foothold step. Even if it's like
First step.
10 minutes worth of work, gets you 30 minutes of worth of work the next day. But I struggle with getting that 5 minutes in because I'm like, no, I need to make a big chunk, big dent first. So it's even like with this book, like it's like, well, I'm not gonna be able to, I don't have enough time right now to edit the whole chapter. But how much more beneficial would it be to get just 10 minutes of editing done? Because in the next session I'll do 20 minutes or,
So there's a conversation, a fun one I just had with Father Roderick von Hogen, who's he's from the Netherlands, I think, Denmark. And anyhow, I met with him, chatted with him on the Legend Fiction channel last week already, or the week before. Oh my gosh. I think it might be the week before. And he said something like he has ADHD like I do, and he's a priest and he's busy and he records for 4 different channels. And so he gets up to all sorts of stuff. But he put himself through a 30-day writing challenge. He wanted to finish writing his book in 30 days. And but he knows himself. And so he got himself a little egg timer and he goes, okay, I cannot promise an hour a day. That feels overwhelming. I can probably just put on a 5-minute timer and sit in front of a blank page. And then after that, give myself permission to go back to whatever else I was doing.
Yep.
Okay, I can do that. I mean, if I can't even do that, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah.
And so he put on 5 minutes and goes, okay, that was actually pretty easy. All right, 10 minutes more. We can do that. And then he'll end up blowing through an hour.
Yep.
So I kind of
But you
like
make
that.
the goal attainable to get to the bigger one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like sometimes it's this is such a weird little thing, but it's like how to think about this. You're like coaxing yourself along. Instead of using a stick, you use a carrot.
Yes.
And it's so funny to think how sometimes it's not only, how do I even say this? Sometimes it's not only just like you lack discipline, you suck, you can't see things through, you can't show up and get it done. Well, sometimes it's not totally you. Sometimes you have to find the way that works with, how do you say? It's like the habits that you have in the body that you have.
Yeah.
And you might think I should be able to function at this level and do this. And then your body is
Yep.
like, yeah, you and what army?
Exactly.
So when you instead Pavlov yourself, by
Mm-hmm.
queuing up your favorite music, or something I need to do, like when I come down in the morning, I cannot have Steam open, which is why I had to kill it. If I have
Yeah.
it open, there go my
Yeah.
circuits.
You're right.
If I leave like my writing app open
Uh-huh.
and then my eyes glaze over that as I walk over to my chair and have my
Mm-hmm.
music keyed up at night or something so that it's ready to go in the morning,
Yeah.
I have made it just that much easier. So what am I
Yep.
doing? I'm working with my body
Yes.
to and myself to build the habits or to do the things I want to do instead of thinking like I can muscle through it because
Yeah. That's like the biggest thing I've come across too recently is like, and even conversation with you. That's what kind of helped, formulate this is that working with yourself and working with where you're at. And it's tough when you always go with what you're thinking compared to the general like good thing you're supposed to be doing or is good for us and like a lot of like social media and like YouTube videos always like high successful people, what do? Wake up at 4 a.m, they get 3 hours of workout in, go for a run. It's like,
six
okay,
juice shots.
exactly. So I gotta do something like that. And I've always kind of pulled like, I gotta be up. I'm the 5 a.m. guy because but that's just not at the current moment of my life. That's not feasible to sustain throughout the week. We have 5 kids. A lot of them are young. You know, so to have that expectation of myself, like you wake up and you're already missing your expectations. If you're like, I should be up at 5 and you get up at 7, you're like, what is wrong with me? I'm already a failure. So it's like you're starting off
Yeah.
terrible
Yeah.
versus saying, hey, when I get up, I'm going to do 5 minutes not even give you time. Like the first thing I'm going to do is going to pray, however long that may be. If it's a minute, if it's an hour, somewhere between there, I'm going to pray. And it's like, that's what I've been trying to do. Instead of doing time frames, just doing order of things. So
Mhm.
like when I get up, pray. And then after that, read for a bit. And that could be in a span of 10 minutes, both things, or it
Mhm.
could be in a span of an hour. It's just, and then so no matter how long the time is, I still feel accomplished because I did the order right.
Mhm.
And then you could, kind of beef it up as you go. But like, that's what I was saying. Like at some point today, I will write. I don't know for how long. And then to zero it in and be like, okay, when do I want to write? Because if I just say sometime, it doesn't happen.
Right. Right.
So I say, as soon as I'm done with work, I'm going to write for a little bit. And
Mhm.
sometimes it helps. I say 5 minutes because it's like, just give you
Mhm.
some sort of foothold to work off of.
Yeah.
But yeah, working with these expectations and being reasonable with yourself, being gentle with yourself, and knowing that not every person is called to be a superhero who wakes up at 4 a.m. and then stays up until midnight and somehow gets it all done. Like, just
Yeah.
be
Yeah. Yeah.
human.
It's a bit like a what is it like a radical acceptance. Um, there's a book which I never finished reading, but someone referred to me years back by she's some Buddhist practitioner. Um, I don't know. She might be from China. Anyhow, it was a book called Feed Your Demons. And
Okay.
at first I balked at it as a
Sure.
nominal sort of Catholic going,
Yeah.
what the heck? And then I started reading just the intro part and realized, oh, this is actually very, very wise because
Mm.
what it is, it's this it's been a long time since I've read the book, so I'm probably going to get it wrong. So this is my riff on it. Um had a conversation recently with the legend fiction team about the idea of your shadow, Jungian shadow, stuff like that, and how there's a difference between oh no, this is something else. Anyhow, your shadow is everything outside the edge of your vision,
Okay.
inside your
Yep.
personality. Everything that you're not aware of, that you don't know is in you. And it's everything that you're ignoring because the only way that you get through your day and you survive life is by doubling down on a few sets of ideas and skills that build up an identity that matches how you get through each day and survive. And so, hooray, good for you. That is exactly how humans need to function to survive. But we're called to actually be more than that. And
Mm.
so that,
Yeah.
let's say, 30, 40% of the circle that makes you you, the job, I think, of being trying to wake up and be a full human being is to expand that to become like a full circle. Now, can it
Yeah.
ever happen in one life? I don't know. Probably doesn't happen without the grace of God. But it's something that we are called to cultivate, called to do. If you stay locked down in that little narrow thing, what can actually happen is it gets narrower and narrower
Mm.
because you get stuck in a purity spiral until you become an absolutely impossible to deal with octogenarian with, you know, very bad ideas and can't stand other people and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, heck, you can be 30 years old and impossible, but whatever.
True.
So, the idea that you're trying to, instead of trying to arm wrestle yourself into success, right? you then have to ask, like, who wins? How do you know if you ever win if you're trying to arm wrestle yourself? That's what it's like trying to deal with your shadow, trying to make, everything you're not paying attention to. The harder you arm wrestle yourself, the harder it becomes.
Yeah.
And the more that you starve your shadow, the more it like it just becomes the Hulk. Because what you're doing is you're denying it your attention.
Yeah.
You're waking, conscious, loving attention,
Mhm.
and you're not integrating it. And so all of that is meant to be integrated into you. It's not meant to be split off and sidelined and locked down.
So then,
You
to
go
be
ahead.
to be annoying with that,
Yeah.
what's like the practical way you'd look at that then? So after reading that, because that's very interesting, what
Mhm.
would be like a practical way of dealing with self or helping self with that in mind? Um,
So I think you'd look at. So here's what I'm doing. For
yeah.
example, I have explosive anger,
Okay. Yep.
um, and if I'm not careful, it just emerges. I say things I don't mean. I say things I don't need to.
Yeah. Same.
I react too much, stuff like that. And it's probably layered. But
Yeah.
because I'm not paying any attention to that, it's not going to ever get any better. I'm not going to try to then go deeper to understand
I see. Yeah.
this is a power that I have not mastered. This is an aspect of me that is feeling resentful, rejected, slighted, angered, or whatever
Yep.
that is. There's reasons for those emotions, reasons for those angers.
Hmm.
And it is a huge power. And if I keep throttling myself and not saying the things that either I want to say or doing the things I want to believe, then that is an aspect of me that is going untreated, unfed,
Yeah.
unintegrated.
Okay. Yep.
Or that's like the major one that comes to mind. Another one is, well, actually, just yesterday I got chat to help me with this. I said, pretend you're a therapist and look at all of my conversations with you over the last year. Read between the lines and tell me what I
Yeah.
am
What's
missing.
going on? Yeah.
Yeah, what is going on with me? And so it gave me really good advice, which
Oh
is what
wow.
empowered me to double down this morning.
Hey.
In fact, it was
Yeah.
the advice it gave was pretty brutally awesome. Let me
I like that.
see if I can go back and pull it up.
What I need.
Where is it here?
Give chat a
Focus for
spin.
breakthrough. So I asked it, out of everything you know about me, identify the one thing I need to know that will create a breakthrough for me. All right. So I can't pay for a therapist right now. So let me go to an AI.
Hey, this is good.
And so it says stuff like this. You're a powerhouse of ideas and creativity. Your biggest challenge is focusing on and sustaining one high impact project long enough to turn it into a dominant success.
Wow, chat hits
Oh,
hard.
shut up, you.
Yeah, shut up.
So right now you're juggling multiple brands, ministries, communities, books, and projects, and they all fit into your vision of, stuff. But if you lock in on one flagship project, pour your energy into it, and you'll create something unstoppable. And then here's ideas, da da da.
Wow.
And then I said, okay, fine. What's the one thing I need to know to make it happen? You need to master constraint. Your biggest superpower is your creativity, but it's also your Achilles heel. You generate ideas at lightning speed, but execution requires discipline, constraint, and sustained focus, which doesn't come naturally to you. And so the key to making this happen is creating external
Whoa.
accountability and structured constraints that force execution.
Shooting arrows.
And then I'm like, okay, so what's your context for this advice? Like, how do I know I can even trust you? Like,
What do you know? Except for everything I've inputted for the last year.
you're just a bot. So, and then it says, my context comes from everything I know about you. You're a high energy visionary. You thrive in the startup phase, but you struggle with sustaining long-term execution. Your biggest challenge is focus. You're constantly pulled in multiple directions, spreading your energy across too many projects. You already have great ideas. You don't need more ideas. You need execution systems.
Wow.
And you're wired for rapid action. So you work best in high energy, structured sprints with clear constraints.
Yeah.
So your enemy isn't lack of talent or vision, it's having too many projects. And then I asked, okay, which out of all of my projects, then okay, which one is the highest possible return for focus and time? Blah, 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 Saga brand. Okay, so I need to really focus on that. It was just very, so there's another example of a shadow aspect, this massive crackling, burning energy in me that because I'm not paying attention to it, it's driving. And so I'm fritzing from idea to idea, trying to find not just a thing that's going to be good, but a thing that's going to bring me joy.
Yeah.
because I'm at a stage of things that are going on in my life where they're hard, they're not wonderful, and I
Sure.
can't rest in a sense and feel
Yeah.
like I can do the creative things that I really love.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm over ideating on all of these other things. I'm trying to psych myself into falling in love with all these other projects by making them, more complex,
Yeah.
more epic, more whatever, as opposed to just picking one and building with it. Anyhow, that's a whole conversation about how to actually solve that for me.
Yeah.
Um, apart from the day job, and
Yeah.
how we're
Sure.
doing with that. Anyhow, so
Mm-hmm.
there's another example, right? There's that power, that superpower. It's like lashing around like a sail in a storm. It's like, what happens if I tie that down? Who do I become? If I
Yeah.
nourish and feed and sort of
Man.
integrate this and put
Unstoppable.
attention on
Yeah.
it, right?
Yep.
I don't, yeah. I
Well,
need to find out. So
I think, well,
does that
I
help?
know. Yeah, no, well, I'm saying speaking into that, maybe it's more of a reflection of myself, but um, I have a similar kind of thing where I like to start the things, and and I'm very interested in a lot of different things, and I get caught up because I think the problem is there's so many. So I have different avenues of interest, but I always bounce back and forth because I'm constantly trying to see what's the best return on my investment. It's like you kind of zero in, like, okay, that's going to do this really well, and then you look at your other project. No, but this actually going to has really potential in this area. Then you look at this, you're like, but this, it's like this can make me money. This can make me happy. This can make me creative. Like it's like you jump back and forth. If everything was all zeroed into one avenue, then you'd be, zipping and ripping. But I think that's the struggle is that, so I would love to, talk to chat for a bit myself. But because if you knew, okay, if like, that's great. If it helps, if Saga Brand's the one, you're like, okay, this is the biggest return on your investment. This is the thing you should be pouring into. Like, okay, let's double down. The problem is, with life, we have a lot of different things that pull our attention. We have family that's always
Mhm.
going to be, priority. For right now, we have a day job, and then three, you have your passion projects, and that's the tricky part because you do have to kind of bounce back and forth between the two, the whatever how many. Um, but I would like it to. That's what I'm going to try and do myself. You gave me a
Mhm.
lot of ideas of just zero in on this project, and then do as much, go full steam ahead in that. But then if you have that moment where you're like, okay, this isn't going where it needs to go, switch gears. But doing one at a time, obviously, I
Mhm.
think could be more
All right, we'll
beneficial
tell you
than
what. We'll make it. Here's a challenge.
let's do it.
So you're rewriting or you're editing through your book,
Yes.
right? You said it's
Uh-huh.
about 50,000 words, I think.
Yep.
Okay. I am also editing through my book.
Mhm.
So it's a branding, marketing template strategy plan book. I need to also reread through that. So I'd like to get it done in less than 30 days.
I'm with you.
Let's see who does it first.
Oh, okay.
Okay, friends, we said it live here on chat. You can roast us if we don't make progress.
May comes around. No, I'm kidding. No, I think we could do it. I think we definitely can do it. And yeah, let's push. I was trying to think of a stake to offer, but I don't have any. There's no
I
stakes.
was almost going there. I was like, nope,
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not
Not
doing
money.
that.
Not money.
We'll
Just
just go
like,
bragging
yeah,
rights.
exactly. That's what I think.
There you
Yeah.
go. Okay, so in about 4 weeks, let's
Yeah.
title a video "You Failed" and
Yeah.
then put the person's name.
They
I
get
don't want that to
they
be
get
me.
promo rights. How about that? The first person who finishes first gets promo rights first on the channel. You get to say did it first, and then right after that,
Yeah,
the other
fine.
person. I'm just kidding.
Sure.
Something like that. All right. No, but I think we could do it. What's today? The 10th.
All
So
right,
you
10th
have
of next month. I want to be uploading this book to Amazon.
same.
I know that I have some rewriting that I need to do. I'm thinking of going through and putting in like, here's how you use chat to help you do this and this part
Yeah,
of this
that'd be
book.
great. Yep. I have a part of the
Yep.
book I need to rewrite as well. I have a pen. And here's a pen. Yeah, I want to write this down. March 10. I would love to. My goal. It's so funny. This is how the goals transfer. My goal was originally to have this book in print by Christmas time and like hand out everybody like, oh, here's the book in print. That didn't
Mhm.
go. Then I was gonna do my birthday. That didn't go. So let's, if the thing, the accountability aspect, me and you, plus whoever's watching, to have us accountable. But by March 10th, we're gonna have these books ready and available. Links in description. That's it for today. Now everyone, go forth and pretend to work like the rest of us.